Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday here on Fantasy Football Today. Adam, Jamie, and Heath. Dave will be joining us soon. We're talking about tight ends, young tight ends, years 2 and 3. So Brock Bowers, Dalton Kincaid, Sam LaPorta, Tucker Kraft, and then some guys that we have to be hopeful for, like Jatavian Sanders, Theo Johnson, and I might be missing someone, but we'll find out. So, all right, how are we feeling about year 2-3 tight ends, Heath?
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the tight end position in Dynasty, I think we're going to talk about the top 3 tight ends.
The top 3.
You see, year 2 and 3, right?
Uh-huh.
So doesn't this include Trey McBride?
No. He is your 4 tight end.
He's a year 4 tight end. Okay,
yes.
Never mind.
Okay, I was like, oh my God. Did I forget about Trey McBride?
Yeah, it's a sincere McCormick moment.
Okay, but yes, so just a couple of corrections from recent shows that the audience has been kind enough to email or tweet or YouTube about. I was wrong about Christian McCaffrey. He did not have knee surgery for the PCL. So that's good. So I don't have to freak out about that. And in fact, the 49ers expressed some optimism that he's going to be fully healthy. And Sincere McCormick, some people said he's not a year 2 running back. Technically, he is not a year 2 running back. He's only played 1 year, but he was drafted or he was signed several years ago. So he's a year 3 or 4 running back, Sincere McCormick. Year 10. Well, it doesn't matter. But we did talk about him on the year 2 running back show.
I just don't really agree with the idea that a year should count if you don't appear in any games.
Yeah, I remember talking about Travis Etienne on the year 2 because he missed his whole rookie season basically, right? Like, did he miss all of it? He had the foot injury.
He missed most of it, yes.
Yeah, and we talked about him on a show like that with a qualifier. So I think it's fine. It's Sincere McCormick. I'm not apologizing for Sincere McCormick. Okay, you can stuff it
Sincerely.
Right. Yeah. Years 2 and 3 tight ends. Give me a sleeper, a breakout, and a bust. Also, we have a lot of news to get to as well. But give me a sleeper in the year 2-3 tight end group.
Dalton Kincaid, post-type sleeper.
Yeah, I guess he might fall to that range. I will say Jatavian Sanders.
Jatavian Sanders. Okay. How about a breakout?
Tucker Kraft.
That's the best one.
Yeah, I was a little discouraged with Tucker Kraft looking into because I had actually been kind of, wahoo, Tucker Kraft. But boy, his target share, not good when Christian Watson was out. We basically, it's the whole thing is like, oh, Christian Watson out, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm filibustering here while I pull up my notes. 6 games without Christian Watson or with Watson playing less than 50% of the snaps. His target share in those games were 16.7%, 20%, 14.8%, 10.3%. And then in week 18 with Malik Willis for like half the game, he had a 28% target share. And then in the playoffs, 15.2%. So that is less than 17% in 4 of 6 games.
You should have just said he plays for the Packers. Like that's what nobody gets good target volume in this offense.
You got to have a little bit of faith that they're going to throw the ball more.
Well, yes. They definitely should. They had the 3rd lowest pass rate in the NFL last year, about 46% pass rate, something like that. Extremely low, very out of character. Never a pass-heavy team. Never a team. I don't think they've been top 10 in pass rate in any year with Matt LaFleur. That's 6 seasons now. The highest they've ranked is actually 14th, but they're usually more like middle of the pack. All right, so Tucker Kraft is the potential breakout. Unfortunately, it seems like the Packers are going to add a receiver, so we'll see if we still feel that way. Give me a bust at tight end at this group of year 2 and 3.
Dalton Kincaid.
Bowers, just based on expectations.
And that was the main thing I wanted to talk about was Brock Bowers being a 2nd round pick. And my question to you is, what is different about Brock Bowers than Kyle Pitts and Sam LaPorta and their 2nd years?
I think the expected involvement in the offense and just the prospect that he was and proved to be. Now, you can say the same thing about Pitts and the way that he performed in his rookie season. But I think the flaw with Pitts was, and this could be the same for Bowers, was that the quarterback play fell off so dramatically for the Falcons that it really impacted Pitts in such a horrific way. I go back to, I had the conversation with Arthur Smith that offseason, and he said, I'm sorry, not that offseason, the going into year 3 for Pitts. And he said the difference between year 1 and year 2 was they had a veteran quarterback in Matt Ryan. And the encouraging thing, which is why I think it's a little bit of a benefit to Bowers, is the quarterback play was pretty horrific for the Raiders. Hopefully it gets better.
Also, Brock Bowers was much, much better than Kyle Pitts and Sam LaPorta were as rookies.
Yeah. Well, Pitts, yeah, like definitely better than LaPorta. LaPorta,
he had 44 more catches, 170 more yards, and 4 more touchdowns. Like it's not even in this than Pitts, not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah, I know. Pitts though did have an amazing rookie season, and he was a top 5 pick. He was, I think, the 4th overall pick.
Yep.
He was injured, very injured in his 2nd season, and that injury even carried over into his 3rd season. Last year, I have no excuse. But I think what happened to Kyle Pitts also was they added Drake London. And as Jamie mentioned, the quarterback play got so much worse. They went from 4,000 passing yards in 2021 to 2,900 passing yards in 2022. But they added Drake London, and that was a big deal. So I wonder if that would matter if anyone was added of significance for the Raiders. And then the last thing is to say that they had bad quarterback play. It's probably true. I mean, going Minshew, McConnell, Ritter, it wasn't good. But they threw the ball so much last year. They had the 4th most pass attempts in the NFL. It's the Raiders I'm talking about here. They had the 9th most gross passing yards per game. So it was actually a pretty good environment for him, especially when Devontae Adams got traded. He was pretty good before Devontae Adams got traded, but just to think about 4th most pass attempts in the NFL, not a ton of target competition. That was great. So I did want to bring that up. They've been linked to Genti maybe with their 1st round pick. Maybe they don't have as good of a passing season as they had in 2024. I think that's actually within the realm of possibility. 4,117 yards and 29 touchdowns. Really not bad.
I mean, it's a fair point. And look, Chip Kelly's going to come in and obviously change a lot of things there. But you don't take that job if you're Chip Kelly with the idea of not featuring Brock Bowers, who could be, this elite prospect first, who was an elite prospect, lived up to the expectations. Hopefully we'll have one of the better tight end careers. It's exciting. It's a very exciting, outlook.
Typo for me. 19 touchdowns, not 29 touchdowns. So that could
you're on a roll.
But 4,117 yards is pretty good. But 19 touchdowns is not so good. All right, so we're optimistic about Brock Bowers.
They're going to add a receiver. I mean, they're not, whether it's a Jacoby Myers upgrade or a Trey Tucker upgrade, they're adding somebody there because they can't go with what they have.
Yeah. All right. So anybody else you want to talk about? You want to talk about Dalton Kincaid? Because Jamie, you had him as a sleeper, and Heath, you called him a bust.
I just didn't think there was a good bust candidate going into this year, and he has been the bust of this group for his fantasy football career. I wonder if we get to the summer and the Bills have not added a true number 1 wide receiver, if the Kincaid hype train starts back up again and he's a single, if he's a single digit rounds pick, then I would think he's more of a bust than a sleeper.
I would lean that way also. I think the hope is the former and not the latter, so that they don't add somebody and there's still the disdain for him that pushes him down to being a later round guy. And I think you're going to see most rank lists where maybe the earliest or the highest he'll be ranked is like 10, depending on how things shake out with the position, who ends up where. But I think you got to look into, just one thing with him was that he said he played with 2 knee injuries. One, we know that he missed time. One was, I don't know if it was the absence or, the one he came back and he was playing through, a torn PCL or partially torn PCL. I don't remember the exact details of it, but I know it was PCL injury. So the hope would be is that that's the next evolution of this offense is that you start to feature him maybe a little bit more. You're starting to see, I think, how this offense could look because they extend Shakir. They invested in Keon Coleman last year. Are they going to be aggressive in a very bad free agent class, or is it going to be another rookie? Or, as they showed us last year, they went out and they made a trade for a veteran guy that clearly did not help them. So there's a lot of ways that this Bills receiving core can look once we get to, September. But I think right now, like if you're looking at their building blocks, I still think Kincaid's a building block. It's just a matter of, can he fulfill the expectations that were probably too high for him last year and maybe start to be just lower expectations, but better production.
One thing that surprised me a little bit. So he played 9 games and then he injured his knee in the 10th game of the season. Then he missed a little bit of time. Dalton Kincaid. So in those first 9 games, he actually led the team in targets. He had 54 targets. Khalil Shakir had 45. Keon Coleman had 36. Unfortunately, the production just wasn't even close. Like Khalil Shakir had 9 fewer targets, but he had 139 more yards than Dalton Kincaid. Even Keon Coleman had a lot more yards than Dalton Kincaid. So he wasn't doing that much with the targets. And then when he came back, another thing that I guess I wasn't quite aware of, he didn't really play that much. He played 24% of the snaps in week 10, then he got hurt. Then he came back, played 49%, 34%, 44% of the snaps in the next 3 games to end the regular season, and then 38.2% to 51% in the playoffs. So this is a guy that I can't remember, someone else, I think it was like Jalen Waddle. We were talking about that last year. He didn't play that many snaps. Dalton Kincaid also, at least second half of the season, he was on the field like less than half of the time.
He wasn't healthy.
Yeah. Well, that happened at the end of his rookie year too. He was 60-70% a lot of the season. And then down the stretch in his rookie year, it was 40 and 50%. In the playoffs, it was 50%.
Really?
And that's kind of a difference between Bowers also and Kincaid or Kyle Pitts, is that Bowers was pretty much a full-time player. Like I think he played 85% of their offensive snaps last year. That's way more than what Kyle Pitts plays. That's way more than what Dalton Kincaid plays.
One of the things that I came away with just for researching this show was that I cannot believe Kyle Pitts' career. After the rookie year he had, because he averaged over 2 yards per route run as a rookie tight end, which is insane. And Bowers did too, I believe, but Pitts was a little bit better. And then to just fall off like this is really mind-blowing to me. But all right, so that's an introduction to today's topic. We'll do some news and notes. We'll come back and talk about, guys who have a chance for a big second season. Maybe you talked about Jatavian Sanders, maybe Theo Johnson. You don't want to know about his yards per route run though. Everything. What's that? Ben Sinnott, absolutely, he's on the list. We'll talk about that. Now we got to remind you, we're going to have a bracket challenge once the NCAA tournament field is set. We'll have the bracket challenge. You can join it. If you win our bracket challenge, you're in the podcast league, the 14-team PPR podcast league, unless Jamie's giving away all the spots, which he usually does. But no, you'll be in the podcast.
I did 3 leagues on my own.
You did. I appreciate that. And also, it's a great time to be watching CBS Sports HQ. Just get you ready for March Madness, but also everything else going on. Spring training, NFL Combine, NFL free agency, NFL draft, of course, NBA, NHL, golf, everything. CBS Sports HQ on the CBS Sports app. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. A 16 beats a 1. From sweet to elite to the Final Four.
Welcome back. News and notes. A lot coming out for the Bengals. They have franchise tagged T. Higgins. By the way, 2 players franchise tagged. I think it's the fewest in almost 30 years. Yeah, 30 years, 31 years. So there you go. So that's T. Higgins for the Bengals and Trey Smith, offensive guard for the Chiefs. So the Bengals and the Chiefs are going to have until July 15th to get a long-term deal done with Higgins and Smith, respectively. Or otherwise they will play on the 1-year franchise tag. Bengals also released guard Alex Kappa, and their offensive coordinator, Dan Pitcher, said that the team might sign a bigger running back, get some more physicality in the offseason. The Eagles gave Saquon Barkley a 2-year, $41.2 million extension with $36 million guaranteed. The Jets released Devontae Adams. That's going to save them nearly $30 million in cap space. They're also allowing Alan Lazard to seek a trade. That seems unlikely. He'll probably get released as well, Alan Lazard. The Seahawks, according to ESPN, are likely to release Tyler Lockett soon unless they can work out a restructure. Sam Darnold is a free agent. They did not, the Vikings did not franchise tag Sam Darnold. And it seems like a lot of buzz about the Giants right now. I don't want to make this a Giant show, but they're going to be making some moves. They're going to probably sign a veteran quarterback next week, and then a lot of buzz about them trading up to number 1 to get Cam Ward. The Saints released Jamal Williams. The Bears. All right, this is big, Jamie. What do you think about the Bears? They've now will have traded for 2 offensive linemen, Jonah Jackson from the Rams for a 6th-round pick, and Joe Thuney from the Chiefs for a 4th-round pick. Did we say that 4th-round pick was 2026?
Yep.
Okay, so it's a 2025 6th for Jonah Jackson and a 2026 4th for Joe Thuney, but pretty big deal, I'd say. What do you think?
I think it's great. That's clearly one of the biggest issues that they had last season was protecting Caleb Williams. So you go out and you get a head coach who everybody thinks has a chance to be, good at, it's certainly going to improve the offense, based on what Ben Johnson did as the offense coordinator for Detroit. And what was the biggest success for the Lions? Well, it was the offensive line, and so you can look at it and say it's a win for Caleb. It's a win for DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, and potentially a big win for DeAndre Swift if he remains the starting running back there. So I'm going to guess they're not done either, because this wasn't a lot of big investments. It's a big investment money-wise because they're going to pay those guys. But to go and spend these 2 type of draft picks on players that still have an opportunity to be contributors right away, I think it's a great job by Ryan Poles.
Heath, on the other side of it, are we concerned about the Chiefs' offensive line now losing Joe Thuney and needing a left tackle?
We'll see. Maybe. I think that they couldn't afford to pay Creed Humphreys and Trey Smith and Joe Thuney, so they chose the young guys. They can probably fix the guard thing. What we're concerned about is left tackle. And I think what we saw in the Super Bowl is that the plan to go with a mediocre left guard and Joe Thuney at left tackle is not a good enough plan. So that they're going to have to find a better option at left tackle. If they don't, then yeah, it's a big concern.
Okay, up to the point where you would drop someone, Mahomes, Pacheco, or whatever, in your rankings?
It's going to be hard to be as excited about the running game. But I wasn't very excited about the running game anyway. And Mahomes was QB 5 or 6. So I don't know how much you can drop him from that just because the potential upside does exist. We'll just have to see.
Okay. The Cowboys re-signed defensive tackle Osa Odigizua to a 4-year, $80 million deal, $58 million guaranteed. And the Eagles released 2 defensive backs that have been pretty instrumental for them in their successful run, Darius Slay and James Bradbury. Bradbury kind of not so much lately, but had at least one really good year for them. All right, back to the year 2 and 3 tight ends. Anything you guys want to add on Bowers? When's the earliest you would take Brock Bowers?
Early round 2.
13.
Would you rather have Brock Bowers? Well, I guess I should ask this: Bowers or McBride?
It's Bowers.
Bowers or McBride.
But they're both round 2 picks for me.
Yep.
How come Bowers over McBride?
I think based on his rookie season and the hope that the quarterback play will be better. Look, McBride can easily be a 10 touchdown guy, but that's clearly been something that's been a problem for him. So at some point that has to change. And we saw the concerted effort to make that possible at the end of the season. Once, he finally got in the end zone, they didn't stop just because he got one. But I think Bowers, just again, elite level prospect that proved it in his rookie season, and hopefully continues to ascend in year 2. So I just like the upside slightly better.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, Schaefer, can we get a YouTube poll real quick here? McBride versus Bowers YouTube poll. I'd love to know how the audience feels about this. In the draft, they always seem to go back to back. In the draft we did a couple of weeks ago, McBride went with the 8th pick of round 2. No, sorry. Bowers went with the 8th pick of round 2, McBride the 9th pick of round 2. So back to back there.
I think that's going to be the norm. You see one come off the board, the other one will probably follow pretty soon after.
Some players that went in the same range. Drake London. What'd you guys take?
Bowers.
The tight ends.
AJ Brown.
Brown.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs.
Tight ends.
Depends what I did in round 1, but probably the tight ends.
Christian McCaffrey.
Tight ends.
McCaffrey.
Didn't have surgery. Just so you know.
Appreciate that. Did they heal his tendonitis?
Yes.
I don't believe they did.
Okay, we got the YouTube poll up, so I'll keep track on the results.
Well, the tendonitis was healed in Germany. The ACL was the knee injury. I'm sorry, not the ACL. The knee injury was in America.
Yeah. And I trust our doctors on the knee, not so much the tendonitis, I guess. I'm gonna vote here. Which tight end do you prefer in 2025? I'm gonna go with Bowers. Ooh, he's crushing it right now, but only 14 votes.
I was expecting like an 85-15 split.
Yeah,
or something.
same.
That's exactly what it is. It's 86-14 right now. 87-13.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Oh, really? Yeah. That's interesting. I mean,
you seem like really surprised by the fact that Brock Bowers is the clear consensus tight end 1.
Well, I actually do think that 4,100 passing yards, I might take the under. You've got a head coach that's been, pretty run heavy in his career. And you've got, I do think right now the season starts, I could probably go Bowers, but I expect them to upgrade at wide receiver. And I definitely expect them to upgrade at running back. That's the thing. They had no run game last year. So.
But would it surprise you if the Cardinals had a receiver?
Add a receiver on day in the round 3 or later now in the first
or again, it could be a second or third tier free agent.
Yeah. But if they add a receiver, I think if either team adds a receiver, it probably would impact the Raiders more than the Cardinals. Like the Cardinals have their top 2 guys and the Raiders have their top 1 guy and then could upgrade.
Are you saying the Cardinals' top 2 guys, Michael Wilson?
No, I'm sorry. I mean McBride and Harrison.
Yeah.
And all right, I'm rambling. Okay.
You're not a Marvin Harrison guy. Some may argue that Myers and Bowers is better.
Yeah, they might. Let's talk about Sam LaPorta and what we expect from him. So Sam LaPorta went from the number, I think, 1 tight end overall in 2023, not per game. Yeah, number 1 tight end overall, number 3 per game in PPR, number 2 per game in non-PPR in 2023. He had 120 targets. He had 10 touchdowns, 889 yards. 2024, he was the number 7 tight end overall, number 9 per game in PPR, number 8 per game in non-PPR. He went down from 120 targets to 83 targets in 1 fewer game. And lost about 150 yards or so and 3 touchdowns. But he finished strong. So do you think he finishes closer to tight end 1 or tight end 7?
1.
Are you guys feeling it?
I think my concern is that just like both years, his yardage, like his 17 game pace for his career is 832 receiving yards. His best was 889 in his rookie year. He has thrived in fantasy because he scored 17 touchdowns in 33 games. And I am a little bit concerned that without Ben Johnson, this team's going to score fewer touchdowns. And that could impact relatively LaPorta and David Montgomery more than it does anybody else.
Hey, Dave.
What's up, guys?
So let me give you guys some values. Tell me what the best value is. Brock Bowers in round 2, Sam LaPorta in round 5, Dalton Kincaid in round 10.
Bowers.
Agreed.
And how do we feel about LaPorta in round 5?
Fine with it.
I think that we've talked about this a lot the last few years on this show, that is the range, and except for Kittle last year, but that is the range where we've made a lot of mistakes at the tight end position. That not drafting the elite tier and going for the second tier. And so I'm probably going to be out there at that cost.
I think I will be too. Where's Njoku going?
Well, in this draft, Njoku was the last pick of round 6.
Yeah, I would have similar expectations for Njoku as I would for LaPorta. In fact, I think Njoku in full PPR is going to be notably better than LaPorta. So I'd rather wait the extra round for Njoku.
Well, I know it's tough to rely on touchdowns, but for LaPorta, he's been a very reliable end zone guy. He's either led the team in end zone targets 2 straight years, or he was one behind the leader in end zone targets. So that is someone that Goff looks to in the end zone. We know it's going to be a great we think it's going to be a great offense. They do have a new offensive coordinator, but it should be really good. And man, I think they'll throw more than they did last season. They're very, what are they? They were 26th in pass rate, and they threw a lot late in the year, and LaPorta was fantastic late in the year. So LaPorta. So you'd say Njoku over LaPorta, Dave, in full PPR?
Yes.
I think another big question is Jameson Williams' role done expanding, or is his role still growing in the offense?
That's a great point.
Is Jahmyr Gibbs' role expanding
as a receiver?
Yeah.
I'd be surprised.
Okay. I mean, he proved to be quite a catalyst for that offense toward the end of the year. And then when Montgomery was out, you can't unsee what he did in those games. I would imagine that there would be an effort made to get the ball in his hands more.
But they had the same situation as a rookie when Montgomery missed time, and it's not like Gibbs entered the season getting dramatically more work. And early in the season, while clearly the coordinator change may throw all this, in a different direction, Montgomery was out catching Gibbs.
Montgomery was? Yeah, that is true. By the way, Dave, Bowers or McBride for you?
Bowers.
30 votes, 77% for Bowers, 23 for McBride. All right. Well, I think that basically concludes our Sam LaPorta talk. I'll give you some other names that went around Sam LaPorta in our most recent draft. Would you rather have Sam LaPorta? Oh, actually, Sam LaPorta or Jameson Williams. They went 2 picks apart.
LaPorta.
Yeah, but they're both a little early for me.
I will say Jameson if it's a 3-receiver league, LaPorta if it's a 2-receiver league / tight end premium league.
Sam LaPorta or Roma Dunze?
LaPorta.
Sam.
Can I see what the Bears do in the next couple
No.
months?
Nope. You have to answer now, and that has to be your answer all the way through September.
I'm going to go with Rome.
So is there any question that if the Ravens trade or release Mark Andrews that you'd have Likely ahead of LaPorta? Where would you do that in that case?
Likely ahead of LaPorta.
I won't have Likely ahead of LaPorta, but Likely will be way up there.
I wish you were a year 3 tight end instead of a year 4. I would have loved to have talked about Likely, but the rules are the rules. We are not allowed to talk about Isaiah Likely on this show. I am sorry.
He'll get his own show in when Mark Andrews is cut.
Let's take one more. Yes, he will. We'll take one more break. By the way, next week's going to be a big, fun week on this show. A lot of movement, trades, free agency, obviously. It's going to be a big week, so we'll be with you.
I hope so. It feels like it could be a little bit of a slow week, though. For
Jamie,
what we do.
You gotta sell it. You gotta try to.
No. I'm just being realistic though. Like, there's not a lot of big free agent receivers.
No.
And the running backs may not sign right away.
It's such a bad free agency year. The quarterbacks are going to be big. Yeah, those are going to be the big dominoes. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, let's talk about Brenton Strange and Tucker Kraft and Theo Johnson and Jatavian Sanders and Ben Sinnott after this on FFT.
Wow.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Okay, how do you rank Tucker Kraft, Theo Johnson, Jatavian Sanders?
Kraft, enormous space. Sanders, and then Theo Johnson.
Yep.
Kraft, Sanders, Johnson.
Does everybody agree that there's an enormous space?
As of now, yes.
Yes, big enough to fit Theo Johnson in.
I have Tucker Kraft as a top 10 tight end.
I know, but can't you see a scenario? I could easily see a scenario where those guys are better than Tucker Kraft. I mean, again, he didn't really do that much. One thing I did like about Tucker Kraft is his yak. Oh my gosh, I've talked about this before, but he had one of the most incredible yak seasons that you're ever going to see from a tight end. He averaged, I think, over 9 yards after the catch, at 9.1 yards after the catch per reception. So that's pretty cool. And last year, his first year in the league, he averaged 7.5 on only 31 catches. But there might be something there. He might have some playmaking ability. But as Heath said earlier, he plays for the Packers. Whereas Jatavian Sanders, I think, has a pretty good path to targets. I mean, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he were second on the team in targets. He had some, hit some good moments last year. Not a lot to go on. But tight end is a position that's full of surprises.
Yeah.
So I think Theo Johnson I have a little harder time seeing it with, but Sanders, I don't think it's.
I like Sanders, and I think he has a lot of potential. And the difference between what Dave said, tight end 10 and tight end 20, is like the difference between maybe 9.5 fantasy points per game and 7.5. So yeah, it wouldn't be that surprising if the guy we thought was going to score 9.5 scored 8 instead.
I think for both of these guys, it's touchdowns. We're not talking about guys that are going to get a lot of catches, targets, yards. That's just not the profile of their offense. It's not the profile of what they've shown. At least 1 year for Sanders, 2 years for Kraft. I think the difference is that, like you said, Kraft is in an offense that we've seen when they featured him. He's done some nice things. The coach comes out this offseason and speaks specifically about getting him more involved. There's going to be a receiver that's missing right off the bat with Watson based on his injury. And even though, Adam, the research that you have of that Kraft was not at his best when Watson was missing, I'll go back to what I said previously. Like, the hope would be is that they're throwing the ball a little bit more, whether it's, 10% more, 15, 20% more. I think a lot of it, and I don't know if you have this data in front of you because you're giving the full season pass rate. Like, what was their pass rate, Malik Willis versus Jordan Love?
Right.
And
So,
how healthy was Jordan Love throughout the course of the season? Maybe he wasn't fully healthy until the end of the year, and their offense was just working well in a different direction because Josh Jacobs was so successful. Again, do they go back to maybe a little bit more balance to what has been the norm for LaFleur and sort of what was working for them 2023 when Jordan Love was fantastic and we all thought, okay, here comes this potential breakout quarterback that just didn't materialize?
Yeah, I compared the Packers to the Eagles, actually, because both teams after their bye went incredibly run heavy. The Eagles' bye was in week 5. The Packers' bye was in week 10 or 11. But then after that, it was all Jordan Love. Jordan Love did not throw more than 30 passes the entire.
All Josh Jacobs.
What's that?
All Josh Jacobs.
All Josh Jacobs. Jordan Love did not throw more than 30 passes the entire second half of the season. They were still 30th in pass rate, and they had an even lower pass rate after their bye week. And then he threw 33 passes against the Eagles in a loss in the playoffs. So they're playing from behind. So they went super run heavy, regardless of who the quarterback was. Again, yeah, I think it was surprising. It's not Matt LaFleur's MO. He's usually kind of a middle of the pack pass rate guy. They usually have a top 12-ish offense. That's pretty reliable. It's a really good offense, and that is exciting. But can he stand out in the offense, Tucker Kraft? I don't know. Can Jatavian Sanders stand out in the Carolina offense? I think obviously I would take Kraft ahead of Sanders. I'm a little more optimistic about upside. I would say that Sanders has more upside. And that might sound crazy, but I never judge a rookie tight end. I never judge a tight end on what they did as a rookie, right? That's like, look at some of the great tight ends. They had quiet rookie seasons. But just in terms of being able to get to like 100 targets, I would think that Sanders has more chance of that than Kraft.
Yeah.
I mean, look, yeah, there's I don't think Tucker Kraft is going from 9.5, whatever he averaged last year, points per game, to 15.
No.
To 13, to 12. Like, he's going to be a 10.5 to 11.5 guy to have a breakout season.
Yeah.
And I think for Sanders, like, can he get to 9.5?
Well,
Like to me, Tucker Kraft feels a lot more like what we thought Jake Ferguson would be. Like a good, reliable, low-end starting option. Someone that you can settle for on draft day. Sanders is the type of guy you're taking if you already drafted your tight end with the hope that there's a lot more to offer.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of what I was trying to say. Yeah. All right. What do we think about Theo Johnson, Dave? I will tell you this about Theo Johnson.
Oh, please.
For you yards per route run guys. 53 rookie tight ends with 40 or more targets since 2006. Theo Johnson ranked 51st. Third worst yard per route run rate, 0.91 yards. The only guys who were worse than him were Eric Ebron and Cade Otton as rookies. But then they both became respectable in terms of yards per route run. But in that regard, it was a pretty horrible year for Theo Johnson. I don't know how much we can even take from it, but what do you think about him?
I don't even know what his role will be in this offense. Does he have a prayer of being the number 2 target getter for the Giants? I don't see a path to that. We know who number 1 is going to be.
Yeah.
And, we might not love Wan'Dale Robinson. He might be like a guy that we talk about off the waiver wire at some point during the year for what seems like the 3rd or 4th year in a row. But I think that there are some significant blockers. This is a team that could add another wide receiver as well. I don't see a path for Theo Johnson to be an impactful fantasy tight end. He's absolutely in that bucket of you throw a dart on him with a late pick, probably more so in tight end premium leagues than in a regular fantasy league. And you give him 1 or 2 weeks, and if he does nothing, you cut him.
Okay. Does anybody think that Evan Ingram or Zach Ertz will be on a different team or retired? But not really. But
Ertz, no. Ingram, yes.
You think they're going to release Ingram?
I think they will either trade or release Evan Ingram.
There's a chance for both. Really, I think comes down to what the Commanders think of Sinnott. They think he could fill that role.
And Brenton, I bring this up because of Brenton Strange and Ben Sinnott. But Dave, why don't you talk about those guys and what kind of potential they might have?
Strange showed some flashes when Evan Ingram was out last year. I think the coaching staff in Jacksonville likes him. And I think if Evan Ingram leaves and they don't do anything to really address the tight end position, you can look at Brenton Strange as another one of those guys that you'll take with a late round pick. I might be more interested in him than Jatavion Sanders. That one I'm writing in pencil. We'll see. As far as the other guy goes, I think Ertz proved to be a good security blanket for Jaden Daniels. And I'm not sure if the Commanders are going to be in a hurry to let somebody like that go, particularly if they can re-sign Ertz for cheap. And if he takes a cheap 1-year deal to stay on, it gives them another 365 days to get Sinnott ready to go. They could sprinkle Sinnott in more in that offense. I'm worried that he's going to be more of like an H-back than the type of tight end that Zach Ertz has been. And that would mean that we're not going to ever see Sinnott be a huge fantasy asset.
Okay. So if Ertz were released or didn't come back, who would rank Sinnott ahead of Jatavion Sanders and Theo Johnson?
Me.
Theo,
If they let Ertz go, they don't add anybody else at tight end.
Yeah.
That's an easy one. That's them telling you that they think Sinnott's ready and that he's not an H-back.
Yeah, Sinnott, I mean, the guy was a 2nd-round pick. He was, pretty good prospect. We seemed to like him. I think the Zach Ertz year was definitely a surprise.
Well, I think the thing with Ertz is now how much does Deebo Samuel, in their mind, replace what Ertz is able to do?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. Well, anything else you guys want to say about this class?
No, I actually have to go. So thanks, guys.
Oh, fine. Whatever. I don't need them. Bye, Jamie. How about you guys? Anything else? How's your day going?
Day is super.
What'd you have for breakfast?
What did I have? I had a protein shake. I had some bread with butter. And that's it. Kind of a light day for me.
Some
Why
sausage.
are you? What's going on where you're asking Why are you wasting
We're
time?
done with we are done with the show. There's nothing else to talk about.
So this is a good time for you to remind people to like and subscribe. Maybe there's somebody watching us for the first time. If so, welcome.
Okay.
And you can subscribe for free to our channel. When we get to 110,000 subscribers, we promise to do a live Q&A. Adam said so.
No,
Knows it. Adam loves the live Q&As of 110 questions.
I'm at 110. Do we not have that yet?
Are we at 110,000?
109K.
And so that means that if everybody who subscribes tells one friend who's not in a fantasy league with them to subscribe to our show, where we give fantasy advice 4 times a week, 3 times a week during the off season, plus dynasty advice, we'd have 218,000 subscribers, and then we'd have to do a 218 question live stream.
You've been talking for like a minute and a half, and all I want to hear about is the sausage patty, the red meat poison that Heath eats for breakfast every day.
Red meat is wonderful for you, especially if you get it from the right place. But this was actually chicken sausage.
Oh, okay.
So it was not red meat.
Very processed, though. I mean,
I did have some chicken breakfast sausage that was not too processed, and some protein French toast sticks.
Okay. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk to Heath about.
I love that Adam wanted to hear about Heath's sausage.
Yes. What was I saying? Landman.
Yes.
You watching that?
Yes. I'm done with it.
I just started.
It's really, really, really fantastic.
We need to get Taylor Sheridan on our show.
CBS 100%.
I'm sure he's got nothing else going on.
He would come on and try to tell us what one of the shows is about, and you would disagree with him and tell him that he didn't know what the show that he made was about.
Anyway, watch Landman on Paramount Plus. It's very good.
It's so good.
We're out of here. We'll see you on FFT Express for those of you who are watching live and want to hop on over to that show. For Heath and Dave and Jamie and Thomas, I'm Adam. Talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today.